Why does meditation start to hurt the longer you sit?
Welcome to our deep dive. We are looking at a stack of sources today that completely flips the script on what you and I probably assume is happening when we sit down and close our eyes and just try to find some peace.
Yeah, it's a pretty radical shift from the usual advice.
Right. I mean, we're talking about this fascinating mix of ancient practitioner notes combined with a really grounded experiential look at body mechanics.
Yeah.
And the mission today is to figure out why the physical body seems to fight us so incredibly hard when we're just trying to sit still.
Which it definitely does.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you're anything like me, or, well, really anyone who has tried to start a practice, you have almost certainly hit this frustrating invisible wall.
Oh, for sure. Everyone hits it.
You sit down, maybe on a nice cushion or a chair, you have this goal of clearing your mind, getting a little headspace, and for the first few minutes, it feels great.
Right, you're escaping the emails, the noise, the endless notifications, but then inevitably your right knee starts to ache. Then your lower back feels like it's compressing. Your shoulders get heavy, and this physical discomfort just keeps dialing up the longer you stay there.
It really just compounds.
Yeah, and you start negotiating with yourself. You wonder, like, am I doing it wrong? Am I just incredibly inflexible? Is this kind of pain normal, or am I totally missing the point of finding inner peace?
Well, it is the single most common roadblock, without a doubt. And it completely derails almost everyone who tries to build a serious practice.
Oh, I totally believe it.
But looking at how these sources break down the actual physical experience of sitting, we need to completely reframe how we view that discomfort.
How so?
That physical ache in your knee or your back is not a random distraction. It's not pulling you away from meditation. It actually signals that deeper, very important processes in the body are beginning to activate.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because
Okay.
the idea that sitting perfectly still is actually a heavy biological process is just wild to me.
I know we have this pervasive idea that meditation is purely a mental exercise. We treat it like doing bicep curls for your brain.
Right, while the body is just sort of hanging out.
Exactly, just acting as a meat sack holding your head up. But the reality shown in these texts is that sitting is a full biological transformation. The pain you feel is the friction of that system slowly waking up.
Well, when I think of a biological process, I think of running or lifting weights or digesting food. How exactly does the body work during a really long sit that causes that kind of escalating physical pain?
The easiest way to visualize this is to recognize that your body operates in distinct layers.
Okay, layers, like an onion.
Yeah, basically. It's not just one solid block of muscle and bone. When you first sit down and intentionally relax, your attention and your body's natural unwinding process starts at the very surface.
So just the skin and the superficial muscles.
Right, the obvious places where you hold your daily stress, the tightness in your jaw, the hunch in your shoulders from staring at a screen. Shedding that surface tension is the initial phase.
Which usually feels pretty good.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
For most people, it feels incredibly relieving. You're just dropping the immediate armor of the day.
Yeah.
But if you hold that stillness, your focus is forced to drop past those comfortable surface layers. The unwinding process starts sinking into the deeper structural elements of the body.
Into the internal organs and stuff.
Yes, the organs, the deep connective tissues wrapping around your joints, the thick tendons, and eventually all the way down to the bones themselves.
Oh, wow. That progression makes total sense, and it actually reminds me of cleaning a house.
Cleaning a house.
Yeah.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, like dusting the living room feels easy and fast, right? You see immediate results. That's the surface layer. But eventually, if you're doing a real heavy-duty spring cleaning, you have to go down and scrub the deep hidden grime in the basement, which is much harder.
Right. You have to pull out heavy boxes, scrub the dark corners.
Exactly. It's incredibly messy and honestly a lot less fun than just wiping a counter.
That is a perfect analogy. And taking it further, think about what happens when you finally go down to that basement. You kick up a massive amount of dust.
The air gets thick, you're coughing.
Exactly. The room actually looks and feels much worse before it gets clean. And that is exactly why the pain doesn't hit you right away, but surfaces later in your practice.
Because you're just dusting the coffee table at first.
Yes. Shallow practice feels easier because it only touches those surface layers. There's very little resistance there. But as you cross that threshold into the deeper structures, built-up blockages surface, and discomfort naturally increases.
Wow, so feeling that deep ache isn't a sign that I need to immediately stretch or just give up.
Not at all. The discomfort is literally the sensation of the body doing the heavy lifting to clear out the basement. It's the physical mechanism of unwinding.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources point out another weird thing that happens when you sit for a long time.
Oh, you mean the foggy feeling?
Yes. Sometimes you just feel incredibly spacey or foggy or like semi-conscious. I know I've hit this state and thought, is this the elusive, deep meditative state? Like, did I finally reach enlightenment?
What's fascinating here is that this is a massive illusion. People chase that heavy floating sensation for years.
But it's not enlightenment.
No, not at all. It's simply a lack of breath.
Wait, let me get this straight. I'm just suffocating myself slowly because I'm trying to sit quietly.
Essentially, yes. Think about what happens when we sit completely still. We often breathe really shallowly, using only a tiny fraction of our actual lung capacity.
Because we subconsciously restrict our breath to avoid making noise or moving our chest.
Exactly. And without taking full, deep breaths all the way down into the belly, the body simply doesn't produce enough energy. So the brain literally starves for clarity.
So what does this all mean for what we eat?
Ah, the diet connection. It is a huge piece of the puzzle.
Right, because the sources explain how having a heavy, full stomach physically blocks the system. Like a bloated stomach pushes up, restricting your ability to breathe deeply.
It's pure mechanics. Your lungs sit above your diaphragm, and right below that is your stomach. If you sit down with a completely full stomach, you're creating a literal roadblock inside your own torso.
It's like trying to pull a bellows open, but the bottom is resting on a giant pile of rocks.
Or trying to inflate a balloon inside a small jar. The full stomach exerts physical pressure against the diaphragm, preventing it from dropping down.
So your breath becomes incredibly shallow.
Exactly. And without clear breathing, your energy transport slows way down, resulting in mental dullness instead of sharp awareness.
That is a wild domino effect to think about. But wait, isn't the whole point of meditation to sit completely still like a statue? How can just sitting possibly harm the body?
This raises an important question, because the romanticized image of the motionless mystic sitting on a mountaintop is actually a real mechanical problem.
A problem how?
Well, meditation is entirely static. If you sit too much without supporting it with movement in your daily life, your circulation inherently slows down. The natural flow of energy and breath exchange becomes sluggish.
Like a stagnant pond instead of a rushing river.
Exactly. And when you enforce pure stillness on the human body without counterbalancing it, this stagnation causes tension and sluggishness to accumulate in your joints, organs, and head.
So the tension you're trying to clear is actually pooling inside you.
Yes. It creates a physical imbalance. You literally cannot have extreme stillness without balancing it with movement to keep the system clear.
This is such a huge perspective shift. Meditation is deeply physical, and you can't ignore the body to get to the mind.
You really can't. And as you take this information forward, you might notice that to progress, you have to find a balance.
A balance of all these different parts.
Right. You must balance the stillness with the deep awareness of the body, keep your breathing full and clear, and ensure you're moving your body outside of just sitting.
That makes perfect sense. But looking at the very end of these notes, there's one final really provocative thought we should hit before we wrap up.
Oh, about the physical ceiling.
Yeah. The text suggests that even if you do all of this perfectly, you optimize your body, your breath, your movement, you will eventually hit a hard ceiling that isn't physical at all.
Which leaves you wondering what that next frontier is.
Exactly. The real work is waiting right at that threshold, but the physical discomfort scares us away long before we ever reach it.
Most people stop right before something important starts happening in the body.